We hope you guys enjoy this podcast with Katie Moon and Brad Walker. All right, well, welcome. What do you guys think of the spot and just kind of everything?
It's awesome. This
cool.
is definitely the best indoor facility that I've been in terms of like a club. That's not like in a university brand new.
Right.
Yeah, ditto that. I think I've seen pictures of one in Texas. It looks pretty sharp as well.
Yeah,
but I mean,
there's a couple.
Yeah, beautiful 2 pits, 2 runways, nice place to run on the inside, in between. And I love a lot of what you guys do here is like what I would envision if I was going to put something together, right? The 2 monitors, having a tape delay so everybody gets to see their jump when they get off the pit, and fast board runways. I mean, it's great. You guys did a phenomenal job putting this thing together.
We appreciate it. I was talking to Brad a little bit about how when we walked in, it was like, I remember talking with you a long time ago and just being like, I think if we put stuff together and we try to do it right, that like people will actually want to like come here and like really good people. And it was just like that moment when you guys walked in and I was just like walking up behind you guys and I was like, yeah, I got the chills. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like you guys actually came out here and did this. And I don't think you guys understand how much that means to us. What in the world is going on?
We are happy to be here, but maybe not as happy as he is to be here.
Right.
No, but, thank you.
Yeah. So one of the things, like for the people who are not aware, like Brad and I had talked a long time ago. Brad's like been kind of helping me behind the scenes with like helping Luke whenever I was coaching him, and we've always liked seeing each other. And so it was just like, let's see if we can get something going where you guys come here and we like are able to film a little bit of content, do the podcast, and then we're going to do a little camp thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast, and one of like the most valuable things I think about podcasts, is the documentation. Like when you document it digitally, it just never goes away. And it's so cool that like maybe you don't think about it right now, but like 10, 15, 20 years from now, like you could come back and you could be like, hey, let's listen to that podcast and like reminisce about like what it was like whenever I was like at the peak of my athletic career. And then the other thing too is just you guys your story is so cool. Like, and I don't know how many people know about like how it all started. And I think it'd just be really cool just to have it documented and have people understand like kind of where it all started. So Katie, I'll go from your perspective of where you were at whenever you met Brad, and just kind of actually, if you could just refresh us too on like your come up, because yours has been a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like it was not just like a straight through the roof.
Yeah.
You were just, I mean, you were a good high school pole vaulter, but not insane.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing that is really fun about your story is it's like anybody could like, do it. Like you showed that like it's like, man, like
anybody fast can
anybody that's fast. Yeah.
Thanks,
So anyway.
Yeah, no, I started when I was in 7th grade, and I was not a phenom, but I always had potential to where coaches would get excited to work with me and what I could maybe do. But it took me until my senior year of high school to win the state meet. It took me until my senior year of college to win nationals. It took me until 5 years out to, get my first contract and make my first team. And so I would like to think that I'm a testament to, if it doesn't happen immediately, it doesn't mean it won't happen, and just hard work, keep showing up. But yeah, when I graduated from college, I started working in Knoxville, Tennessee with a professional coach there. His name was Roman Bacharnikov. He was great. I just wasn't ready to be all in at that point. I think I still needed to feel in control, and I was a little one foot in because it's scary to think, what if I give this everything and I don't make it and I'm not as good as I want to be.
You mean like all in, like bought into like, yes, I'm going to be a post-collegiate pole vaulter.
And I wanted to be, and I moved there, but like I think on an emotional level I was a little like, I just for some reason couldn't get there the way that I did in Brad's system.
Right.
And I think I had just been good on my own at that point. Obviously I had knowledgeable coaches, but as a whole it was a lot of it was just pure talent and potential, and you get to a point where that caps out. And I ended up getting really homesick and just started struggling a little bit after I think the second year there. And so I moved back home. I went to the Olympic trials in 2016 using Roman's training plan, but working with my college coach kind of in my comfort zone. I had a great meet. I jumped 460, which tied my outdoor personal best, and I didn't make the team. And up until that point, if I had a great day at a championship and I wanted something out of it, I usually got it. And so that was very humbling and a big wake-up call that I could not keep doing what I was doing and stay in my comfort zone. I had to just go into a fully new system and just buy in. And so I was kind of looking around, and I reached out to Brad. We had jumped together at a couple meets, but like he was at the back end of his career. I was brand new. So I was that annoying little girl that was just like trying to meet everybody and like, hi, Brad. And he's like, don't talk to me.
I don't remember that, but maybe.
But probably.
Yeah.
No, but I remembered very distinctly, we were at Chula for a meet and somehow we got talking, and I don't remember specifically what you said, but the way that you talked to me about the vault, you just instilled a lot of confidence in me and just made it, like, simplified it in a way where I just remembered that and was like, I had heard that you took the job at Washington State if you could coach elites. And so I reached out because I remembered that interaction, and I remembered just how good I felt after that conversation. And
do you remember what was said, like, in the conversation?
Not really. I know that I had just come back from Taiwan and I was jet lagged and fatigued, and I just remember he was saying a lot of positives, but like broke it down very simply, and it was a very brief interaction, so I doubt he would even remember that, but it stuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't remember specifics, but you always remembered like how people make you feel, and so that I was like, yeah, if he ever coached, that'd be awesome. And then I again heard that he had taken that job at Washington State, and I don't know that he was ready for that, and he can tell you that himself, but I sent him my video and he's like, yeah, okay, come out. And I knew day one he was able to make changes that I had never been able to make myself and make it feel like my jump. It didn't feel disconnected and disjointed. And so, yeah, I don't know if he knew what he was getting himself into, but I was committed. I was like, this is it. And because I had exhausted all options in my mind, I knew this was it. If this didn't work, nothing was going to work. And so I think that allowed me to buy in completely.
So were you at a point like where it was like, I might like have to just pack it up, or like were you still going to pursue it regardless, or I just don't know where you were at? I
was young enough and experiencing enough success. Like I was getting into some of the diamond leagues. I had a very good agent. I still have a very good agent that was able to, use some of the better athletes she had to help get me into those meets. So I wasn't out jumping enough people to outright get into those meets. But, she had the Olympic champion and kind of used her to help me get in. And then I was holding my own. So I was at a spot where I don't know that I would have quit anytime soon, but I wouldn't have lasted this long by any means. Just because it's not sustainable. I wasn't making money.
So we had, in the last 24 hours, we probably had 15 podcasts worth of content because last night we just talked forever about everything.
Yeah, I think you got the whole podcast.
So I was gonna say like the whole podcast and then some. But if you could just really quick, I thought that your story of like how you, like the specific things that were in that first jump session in Washington State that like really like made it click for you.
The biggest thing I was always told is you need a bottom arm. I always collapsed immediately, swung right off the ground. I never put any energy in. And anytime I tried to keep my bottom arm out, I felt stuck. I couldn't swing. It just didn't feel, and that was something that I was always good at, was swinging fast and getting upside down. And so I just never knew how to connect those two. And so Brad made it more about top hand pressure, and that it's just getting the bottom arm up out of the way, but then you want to then crank that top hand pressure to the shins as fast as you can. And I had never heard it that way before. No one had ever explained it that way. All I ever heard was you just need a bigger bottom arm. And
That sounds pretty familiar.
yeah. And so he just made it so that I could actually do it and make it a part of my jump. And it was just a different way of explaining it that made sense.
Right. All right. So Brad, you get a call. You got a call from Katie?
A text.
A text. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's like the first thing that goes through your mind? Like, are you thinking that she's trying to get in?
Sneak in. No. Well, so I believe it was my second year at WSU. I always wanted to coach elites, but I didn't think I was like ready because I had just taken on the college gig. I was in the middle of I was retired at this point, but I had thoughts that maybe I could do, a little bit more jumping, things like that. Mm-hmm. But I knew that the career was definitely winding down, and when she reached out, my immediate thought was like, I don't really want to do this just yet, to be honest. But I said, send me a video, because I although I did know Katie and had seen her a little bit, I didn't really ever analyze her jump from like a coaching perspective. Mm-hmm. So I was like, just send me one of your videos. And it was clear that she was fast, but it was clear she was doing a lot of things wrong. And that's like a pretty awesome equation as a coach. You know what I mean? Like The last thing you want is somebody who's really technically proficient, who's already kind of like along in years and has their speed developed.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because, what can you do? Well, you can support them and you can, help them along the way. But like immediate changes are going to be a little bit more difficult. So I saw her speed and what I thought would be her potential and said, why don't you come out? Because coaching elites, like the relationship is a big aspect, right? It's like, it's huge actually. Like they have to buy in, you have to enjoy working with them. And then in the high school or college world, you can be less emotionally attached, but with the elites, like you can't be because that's their livelihood. Like that's a big ask. Like if Katie's going to move across the country to work with somebody who she doesn't know and our relationship is not good, then obviously that's going to end in a pretty big failure. So, so I wanted to see who she was. And so I invited her up for the week. And we talked about this yesterday. I didn't know anything about Katie, really. I didn't know there was any mental blocks. I didn't know that she had, weird ideas about, from start to finish, all sorts of different things. So I wanted to see what that was going to be like. And I just assumed we were only going to jump from short approach. And for me, jumping from 3 or 4 lefts is not a super difficult task. So I was like, hey, we'll jump her from 4. And she was like, well, how should I get my poles there? Because Pullman's pretty hard. And I was like, oh, you'll just use ours. And that was, I didn't know this at the time, but that was a big thing. She was like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do? I can't borrow poles. This is going to be.
I had never jumped since high school, like club days. I had not jumped on not my poles, and I had never jumped from 4 lefts. And I don't think I had ever bent a pole from 3 lefts. So it was like, I didn't even know what poles of mine I was going to use, but like, he was like, no, you're fine. We have poles here. And that was my first like big trust like that. Like before I even was out there, that was the first big, like, okay, like I'll trust you. It worked out.
I think a lot of it too is the way he talks. Like just the way you talk is like, there's no doubt. You know what I'm saying?
So
like
sure
it's
of
just
himself
like
that
it's just when it's just no doubt. Like and so then it just makes you feel like, oh, that's the right thing.
100%. That it is like I feel like it's rare to meet just someone so like sure like this is what it is. Like there's no and his big catchphrase is it's a choice. You either choose to come down the runway and hit your takeoff and hit your cues or you don't. And I'm like, it's so much harder than that. He's like, it's really not. And it's not. Like I mean, really, there's no reason that I can't do it exactly the same on the runway as I do on the track. But yeah, that was the first big trust. He just has so much confidence in what he's saying that it's like, yeah, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, right.
So she shows up and we went through just real basic stuff. And there was things on her video that I remember. She was pretty lopey, long steps coming in, planting behind herself. There was very clear reasons, at least in my head, of why she couldn't push on her left arm and why, the jump was a little disconnected. And so we kind of went through some of the basic fundamental stuff, but she picked it up really quickly. And that was, I've worked with enough people to know that picking it up quickly is unique, actually, even though it seems like these are simple movements. When you start moving, like everybody can do a walking, well, it's funny because not a lot of people can do a good walking plant. However, you can coach a good walking plant in one quick session.
Right.
Then you ask them to move on the pole vault pit and watch everything revert back to everything they've always done, and you don't see the carryover. And so even on that first session, she was doing the things that I was asking her to do, and I didn't know how good of a session it was. Like she didn't unveil all of her hand at the time.
I was so excited, but I'm like, I got to keep my cool.
Yeah. Because it's what I expected. I was like, okay, we're going to do this, and we're jumping from short, so it's going to be easy and all that stuff. But she was hitting all the positions, and I didn't know she was having a great session, but I was happy with how it went.
Right.
And also, when you have your first interactions with somebody and you're trying to figure out personality-wise if you're going to click, there didn't seem to be any like barriers or roadblocks to anything. And was it 2 or 3 sessions that trip? I thought there was maybe 3.
You're probably right. I know there was more than one where it was just, I was so excited because each one I was able to finally have a bottom arm and actually swing. And
that's what I was kind of going to ask though. Was it on that trip that you showed the anxiousness that or all the fears and all that stuff?
No, I think I tricked him.
She tricked him.
How was there a moment where you were like, oh, I see now?
Once I was moved and committed.
Fully moved and committed.
to understand a little bit of the psychology.
We don't have to go super deep into it, but I'm curious if there was a workout where everything just hit the fan and then it was like, okay, I know what we're working with. We got to dive into this and we're in this together, or if it was just over time you kind of discovered that.
I have one in mind.
Well, I think the best way to answer that is you can sense when somebody's confident and not confident. So I could see she was maybe lacking a bit of confidence. However, confidence is a skill that's acquired over time by doing things correctly, right? So when she was able to do things correctly consistently and hold on to the cues that she had been working on, I was like, okay, we can work with this. It's easy to understand if somebody has a really bad approach and a passive plant, why they may be a bit nervous to pole vault, right? Because nothing about that instills confidence. So I was like, we can change the confidence thing. And I let her know, in full disclosure, after we had kind of, all the conversations and stuff like that, and we talked about this before, I said, I won't be a coach who taps you every jump because I don't believe in that. And she wasn't hiding anything. So she had told me, I get tapped all the time. And I was like, just so you know, if you come up here, that's not going to be how we move forward. And so all of my cards were on the table. And as far as I knew, I wasn't sure. I didn't know until later that she was as excited and knew immediately that's where she wanted to be. I thought she was going to go home and have to think about a lot of things. And I think the plan was for her to come after the indoor season.
Yeah, what time of the year was this?
So this was around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The plan was to do the whole
2017?
year, the whole 2017 back at home, and then make a move. And I just knew, I'm like, this is it. This is where I need to be. And so I moved after the indoor season. So I it expedited things quickly. But I knew it was right, and I feel like we've proven that right. So
I think you have.
What was your workout that you said you had a workout in mind that everything kind of snapped?
I think where it started to just get a little anxious for me is when we went to 6 lefts. To this day, I will say 6 I can definitely jump well from, but it's so in between that I don't enjoy it. And if it feels off, it's really off. Because
you don't enjoy it enough to win a world championship with it.
Yeah, it's a bad approach for her.
I did say I could jump high on it, but because it's from 4 lefts and 5, you're kind of just gunning it from the start. It's just all acceleration, full approach, you're building for half, and then you're accelerating. 6 is that weird in between where I'm
He
on
was
full
like-
I've
approach
always felt
pulls.
that
He
way.
was like that
I hated
too.
6.
I didn't get
Thank
it.
you.
I
did
didn't
it.
understand it
Thank
at
you.
all.
People
Yeah.
either
I never
love
did
it
6.
or hate
I
it.
never
and
did it.
Okay, so our first bit from 6 is where things started to feel like it was weird. And then I started to get some Achilles issues because I was slamming on the brakes trying to like stop. And so that was the first taste of it. And then one of the first outdoor practices that we had, he said, okay, you only get 6 run throughs because I'm only going to give you 1 tap. And I think we were coming in from full approach, which is still to this day, I don't practice from full approach very often. And I was running through, and I think he gave me a couple extras, and I ran through like, I don't know, 8 times throughout the
think it was
session. Something you gave me extra
I did
ones.
give her an extra one.
And he just very calmly and like gets up and starts pulling the cover on the pit, and I burst into tears, just hyperventilating, sobbing. No one had ever shut down a practice on me before, and I needed it. I'm glad he did that because I had always been able to kind of push back with my coaches, and I actually was excited to work with Brad because I wanted to impress him more than so I wanted to do whatever he was giving me because I was a little intimidated. I was a little afraid of him. I just wanted to impress him, which was ultimately instilling a lot of internal motivation and confidence in myself and yada, yada.
Right.
But yeah, that was a very distinct day of like, Brad's like, what am I getting myself into? But he talked to me. He's like, look, we're not accomplishing anything with this. Like, let's go do pole runs. And then I did a bunch of pole runs. He's like, okay, do you want to get back on the runway? Yes. and I finished with a few good jumps.
And well.
So that really I would say that was the one where he was probably like, I regret everything, but here we are. So
But was she the first like elite that you worked with?
Well, when I was jumping, I would always, as much as I could, and probably to the point where people were like, hey, stop helping. I would try to help friends and people like that. And so in a very loving way, because Yu Kim is an amazing person. I love the dude. People who know the pole vault know who Yu Kim was, know that he had a lot of his own run-through issues and things like that. So I had been around, run-through issues and grip issues and things during my career. And fortunately, I, for the most part, avoided them. But in that specific situation with Katie, all I needed to do was let her know that it's not okay. Like, and maybe for like young vaulters and people who have run-through issues, I feel for you.
Yeah.
But it's not okay to think that it's okay to run through. And everybody knows that they shouldn't be. Well, here's the truth of it. Most of the people who have run through issues know they're going to run through before they take their first step. They almost always know they're going to run through.
Yep.
So what happens is they reinforce this pattern that like it's okay to do. They know that it's not okay, but like I can do it. And I needed Katie to know that she can't. Like I needed to know your practices will not move forward if you don't leave the ground because we can't make progress. And also knowing that previous people she had worked with had allowed things to happen for maybe a little bit longer than they should have. And I knew that she had kind of been able to run the show in the past, and I knew that I couldn't allow that, not just because, as a coach, I want to tell her what to do or any of that kind of stuff. It was like, this will not be good for her development, therefore it cannot happen.
Right.
So I have to let her know that it's not an acceptable option.
Yeah.
And when you take that option away from somebody, then they reevaluate, okay, why is it happening? How do I make it not happen? A lot of times a run through sometimes when they take the first step, they know that it's not going to happen. Sometimes that's not the case. And a yellow light is okay. Like I have a little red light, yellow light, green light system. So we all want to have green lights and leave the ground, and the red light should be an abort because it's going to be unsafe if you leave the ground.
Right.
When you have a yellow, take it. Like you might have to slide down the pole to get to safety, but like you have to make sure that you're committing yourself every time you're on the runway, and that has to be a part of the mindset. And so I just needed her to know on that session, like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Like you're not just going to be the run through story.
So boundary, you had to set a boundary. And actually now that you're like talking about this, I hate to make a parenting reference, but it's almost like parenting like with a kid. It's like you love them. But it's like, I have to establish boundaries for you, and you
For
might
sure.
not understand it, but I have to do that because that's my job as a parent.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that too, working with Luke, because he's my brother and I love my brother. and we would be in a workout and it'd be like, man, I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to upset them. Like, I don't want to, I don't want him to be mad at me or whatever.
Brad doesn't care.
And that's
if
what's
anyone's
great
mad at him.
about Brad. I was just telling you about how, man,
Yeah.
it must be nice because he will tell you exactly what it is that you
Yeah.
need to hear. And then like, he doesn't have to deal with
Yeah.
like the dilemma of
Yeah.
like being upset about it. And that's like the boundaries as a coach, like you have to establish that.
Yeah.
And you probably got really good at manipulating your way to like with other people, like trying to get more jumps out of them, or like, no, I'll do it this next time, or whatever.
Well, it was the opposite for me. I wanted to jump as little as possible because vaulting scares me. To this day, it's so much better. Like,
Right.
I would say it not as much anymore, but like especially at that time, it was really scary for me. Like. And we, analyzed why and all of that. But I would take maybe 4 jumps in a session and be like, that was awesome. I'm good. Let's go home. And he held me accountable to take a lot of jumps and actually make changes. And so it was a combination of just more volume than I had ever done, along with like, I'm a little uncomfortable with this. And I needed him to shut that down because it lit a fire, and I'm like, okay, we need to figure this out, like, because this is not going to fly.